everybody! I have a really exciting video to show you guys. It's a gift wrapping video, just basically a couple of ideas on how to wrap gifts using only a few materials, which can all be found for pretty cheap. Craft paper, which you could buy in a roll, but you can also just collect it from when you buy things and they come wrapped in craft paper, or when you get something shipped and they use it for cushion, for things not to break, for example. So you could just collect it throughout the year and then use it for Christmas, and then it's free. But anyway, we're gonna start with just wrapping the gift with the craft paper as you usually would wrap the gift. Here I'm showing you how I usually wrap. This is basically the way I always used to see my mom doing it when I was growing up, so this is the way I learned. I'm sure there's many other ways. My approach is basically, first of all, making sure I have enough paper to cover the whole gift. I like using a tape roller because that way you don't get the tape on the side, which it's not the most aesthetic thing, but you can also use double-sided tape, or you can just use clear tape if it doesn't bother you. That's perfectly fine. And then I fold the ends of it towards the inside to then get these two triangle flaps, which then I also use the tape roller to glue down to the gift. Now, for these flaps, the tape roller, I find that it doesn't fully hold them down. In this case, because I'm using the twine, that's okay because the twine will hold them down. However, if you are not using twine and you just want to wrap them and maybe use the seal without the twine going around it, or do whatever else, stamp it, whatever you do with your gifts, I do recommend you use at least double-sided tape if you don't want it to be shown, so for it to be stronger and actually hold together. And then I basically do the same thing on the other end of the gift. So now that the little box is wrapped, it's time to bring out the twine, which I got a pretty big roll of it in Michael's for, I want to say about $5 or maybe a bit less, I can't remember. Now I like doing multiple loops over on the same side just because I like the look of more than just one string going around it. I like the way it looks more decorative. It kind of looks like an old package just being delivered. So I wrap it around 3 times and then I just make a simple knot for it to stay there. You don't need to make it pretty because we're putting the seal on top of it anyway, so just a simple knot is fine. To then go over on the perpendicular side to make a cross. I like doing this cross towards the side of the gift. I like it to be off-centered, but if you want it in the center, I'm sure that looks great as well. And then I do one final knot on the top so that it stays in place, and then it's time to actually cut the wax seal sticks. Lastly, wax seals, which I was using 2 wax sticks at a time for this because I wanted to blend the colors. I got this giant pack of them. I think it's 24 colors of them on Amazon for like $13 or $14, so that brings it to less than $1 per stick. These do have the wick, so in theory I could just light up the wick and let it drip over the gift. But first of all, I find that I don't have as much control of where the wax goes when I just let it drip, especially when I'm using 2 colors and I have to have one in each hand. And secondly, because these sticks were so cheap, whenever you light them on the wick, because I tried with a separate one, the color of the wax just turns kind of black and it just looks ugly. So I just cut them to the size that I want, considering that I'm using 2 colors, and use a spoon. As for the spoon, it's definitely, I recommend getting a furnace if you are wrapping a lot of gifts. That way you can just put the spoon down, wait for the wax to melt while you're wrapping other gifts, and it would be a huge time saver. I don't have one at the moment. I'm looking into getting one, but for now I'm just using the candle that I was burning on the desk and just holding over it until it fully melts. I do love watching it melt little by little. It is the most satisfying thing. That's why I wanted to leave that footage here instead of just cutting it to where it's melted. Seeing it in the video sped up is just so satisfying to me. I don't know why. But anyway, once it's melted, I just pour it on top of where I did the knot to cover that up. And then I chose this wax seal that I had. I got it from Rosie Atelier or well, I think the shop is called R Atelier, but her name is Rosie. Anyway, I'll put her name on the top left corner of the frame for you to check her out. This particular seal has a sand clock on it, which actually looks like the time turner that Hermione uses in the third Harry Potter movie. I think that's what it's meant to be, but it can also just be a sand clock. And I don't have a specific Christmassy one, so this is the one that was more kind of neutral. I actually already traveled with these to Puerto Rico to bring it to my family, and they are in perfect condition. Nothing happened. I didn't put them in a box or anything. I just put them in one of the pockets of my luggage, and they have arrived perfectly. Now, going on to awkwardly shaped things, I also have these pens that I want to give my family, and they already come in this cylindrical kind of test tube looking thing, and I didn't want to just put everything in a box, so I decided to just roll it with the paper as such. Other than the shape, the rest of the process is the same. Now, instead of folding it triangularly on the ends, on one end, the flat end, I'm basically just bringing it all down for it to be flat, and that's actually the side where I'm going to put the wax seal on. So same here, I'm using the tape runner even though it's not the most efficient in terms of fully holding it down, because I'm gonna wax seal it anyway, so it doesn't need to be super tight with the glue. Now the sides, on the other hand, it worked out perfectly with the tape runner. It does stay very firmly. Now after that end is closed, I'm going to wrap some twine around the other end, the end that's not flat, it's rounded off. So here I'm taking some twine and wrapping it throughout the whole cylinder so that again it gives it that crafty old male kind of look, and then tying it up at the end. Now the way I'm using the wax seal on this one at the end is kind of inspired by the Papier Plume ink bottles. I don't know if you've seen them. They are a local fountain pen store and stationery store in New Orleans, and their ink bottles have wax seal dripped from the cap. So I kind of wanted to recreate that look. So to achieve that, because of the folds of the paper at the end, I need to do the wax in 2 goes. So first is merely to hold it down. So I do a little bit of the wax, and then I'm actually using the seal to hold it down, not necessarily to show off the design, but for the paper to stay where it's supposed to stay. So it's not the prettiest seal, but then I go back with more wax, the same combination, and drip more of it to get that marbly effect and have the gift stay closed. Careful when you're doing this. I did burn my finger, so make sure when you're doing it, move your fingers away from where the wax is dripping. That would be a great idea. And then finally, I'm cutting out the other end, kind of like a fringe style, just to make it a bit more organic looking and not so stiff. But that's pretty much it. Then finally, I want to show you how I make my little gift tags or cards. So I start out with a little piece of cardstock. This one in particular is a warm toned off-white, and then I cut it down to 2 inches high by 3 inches long. I find that this was the perfect size to fit the name of the person I'm giving it to, my name, a little design. Everything fits here perfectly. There's no empty space, but things aren't crammed together. So I start out just by dabbing some ink on the borders. You guys know I am obsessed with that. I'm doing in every possible journal page I can. So of course I'm going to do it here too. I'm just using this light brown for it to just look vintagey and match the brown of the gifts. And then once that's done, I'm coming in with this corner cutout. Is that what it's called? It's not stamp. Maybe it's stamp. Cutout. Anyway, if you know what these are called, please comment below. Let's call it cutout for now. This corner cutout. It is not specifically Christmassy, but I think this look kind of festive. So I'm just doing that in all 4 corners for it to look more decorated. And then I'm going in with this Christmassy stamp. Is this mistletoe, I think? Stamp that I've been using a lot in my bullet journal as well. So I'm just using some brown ink and putting it on the side of the tag for it to be more clearly Christmas themed. So basically, if you want to try out this way of doing a tag for another occasion, you can just use a different kind of stamp or just not use any stamp at all. You could just leave it at cutting out the corners in fun shapes and dabbing some ink and then writing who it's for and who it's from, and you're good. Or you can, for example, change it to a Valentine's themed stamp if you want to use it for Valentine's, and etc., depending on the occasion. And then I'm coming in with my beloved fountain pens to write the to and from. For the actual to and from words, I'm just using a medium-sized Mnemosyne with Emerald of Chivor in it. And then for the names, for both names, I'm using Diamine Firefly, which I raved about it already. It's the perfect Christmas shade in my opinion. Sorry about this plane that's flying by. I am using my Jane Hao 999 Dragon pen with a Goulet 1.5 stub nib for the name of the person that I'm giving the gift to. And then I'm using a Conklin Durograph in Purple Nights with a Goulet broad nib to write my name. And then to finish it off, I'm just taking a hole punch, making a hole on the side to put it in the string. Now we get to add it to the gift we already did. So I'm adding them to the pens, not the ink bottles, because that's the one that has the extra string for me to tie it to, and I just think it'll finish it off and maybe make it look less like a candle. It kind of looks like I'm giving them a candle. They probably will think it's a candle, but that's okay, more of a surprise. So basically on the leftover string, I'm just adding this little tag through the hole that we just did, and then just making a little bow, something easy for them to take off. And then that is everything. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. I do a lot of crafty stuff here in this channel, so I'd love to see you around. Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. I hope you're enjoying your time off. I hope you're having some time off at least to see your family, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.